What is the worst thing that happened at your school? Gym teacher had a hidden camera for years in the girls' locker room placed inside a washer with a do not open sign. For whatever reason nobody ever opened it. A student that cut his grass decided to snoop in his house while the teacher wasn't home. He came across tapes named Last Look 03 and other names of that nature. Popped one into the VCR and saw the girls from our school on the tapes. It made some big news as this teacher was well respected, especially as a track and football coach. We had some butthole take a crap down the staircase, hitting all 3 floors on the way. I didn't know this, but apparently poop can legally be classified as a biological weapon. The school had to be shut down for 3 days and the State Bureau of Investigation got called in. I heard the term bioterrorism get thrown around. Never caught the guy. A suicide pact was successfully carried out between a rich/popular cheerleader and her wrong side of the tracks boyfriend from another school. When her parents forbade her from seeing him, they jumped off a cliff together to their deaths. Rumors indicated she initially survived the fall and suffered for hours. It was surreal watching reporters descend upon the school and all the opportunism that occurred as a result of the tragedy, by both students and media groups. A teacher was gang-banged by 11th and 12th grade students. It was consensual on her part. And it wasn't at school, to be clear. A teacher went to break up a fight, and she got stabbed in the chest. Teachers were not allowed to break up fights after that. We had somebody plant fake bombs and call in a bomb threat at the high school so the police would all be focused at the high school. Was really just a distraction for a double homicide/suicide across town. Edit, this was in Northwest Washington. We were a poor trailer park school with high rates of domestic and substance abuse. Worst incident I remember at school was one kid shooting another kid in the stomach over a bad drug deal. Did it right in front of everyone in the hall between classes. The worst thing to happen in general though was a classmate of mine breaking into an old woman's home to rob her, discovering she was home and murdering her with a baseball bat. That whole school felt like it was cursed, and people just got meaner there merely by walking inside its doors. Friend and co-captain of the soccer team brutally murdered his parents. His mom was my English teacher. We had some people play actual Russian roulette, and when someone eventually lost, the other 2 guys tried to hide the body. They're both in jail now. The seniors planned their senior prank to have a bunch of alarm clocks go off in lockers all over the school throughout the day. The idea was that by the time one locker was unlocked to turn off the alarm, another would be going off. Unfortunately for the seniors, the day they planned this happened to be the same day Obama was campaigning at the fairgrounds less than a mile away. The alarm clocks got mistaken as bomb threats, and just about every senior in the school was questioned by either police or teachers. Basically, it was just a huge misunderstanding that led to a whole bunch of crap. One student poured baby oil all over the upstairs hallway, ruined the floors, and broke a janitor's leg. His family had to pay for damages, and now our school has a strict no lubricants policy for senior pranks. Edit, I go to school in Ohio. Very sweet and popular girl who was a friend of mine was killed by her father while she was in middle school. Her grandmother was our lunch lady in elementary school and was a student favorite. Her dad was a cop, and after killing her he killed himself, leaving his wife without child or husband. After school, 3 siblings were crossing the road. One was on a bike and his younger brother was on the handlebars when a truck hit them, killing them. Their sister watched them die. Not really at my school, but when I was a junior these 3 boys went out to this guy's house in the middle of nowhere to rob him. I guess he had a lot of guns and money and stuff that they wanted. When he opened the door they started beating him up, and I guess they just wanted to beat him enough to where he couldn't fight back while they took his stuff, but they ended up beating him so bad that they killed him. 2 of them went on the run while the 3rd one showed up to school the next day. The police came and arrested him at school. That was a fun time. A lot of this is secondhand because I was 10 when it happened, but here goes. A teacher at my elementary school was going through an extremely difficult divorce. Her husband was a generally angry guy, and he had really gone off the deep end when she served him the divorce papers. Also had 2 kids enrolled in the same school. So the husband goes MIA for a week or 2, no contact with anyone unless it's through lawyers. Eventually he comes back, a whole lot calmer, and for another week or 2 there's an uneasy peace. During this time both of them were removing their stuff from the home to live separately, always with witnesses so nothing went down. One day she shows up at school more distraught than usual, and leaves at lunch to go back to the house. The husband lured her there somehow, most people think by tricking her to agree to a midday moving session, but it was a trap. She showed up, it was only him, and he killed her before turning the gun on himself. It was a small community, so it hit everyone really hard. Well, it's still mostly speculation on the student's part because of how long ago it was, but there's a story that a few years back the Saners wanted to do a massive prank. They decided on bringing in a pig and greasing it up quite thoroughly, then releasing it into the school to run wild. The administrators and the resource officer struggled for a while trying to capture the animal, but they were unsuccessful. At this point, the pig decided that it wanted to stop in the lunchroom, which was occupied, to mooch some students' food. The resource officer was completely fed up at this point, and really just wanted to end the whole thing, so he pulled his 9mm and popped the pig right in the middle of the lunchroom. So yeah, pig blood everywhere. Fun. We aren't allowed to do saner pranks anymore. Edit, officer was fired after shooting the pig, as you'd expect. The next office we had was a really nice lady named Hoppy. Everyone loved her and she shot 0 pigs, so a total improvement. I'm just going to copy-paste a story I've told in another thread years ago. Our senior class valedictorian was murdered by her gangbanger boyfriend just months before graduation. She was this super smart, 4.0 student, helped motivate classmates to do well in school. I was one. She helped me pass classes my sophomore year just to be a good person, but had a thing for thugs. Loved guys in gangs, and you'd never know it because she was your typical well-dressed, well-to-do white girl living in a farming town. Anyway, she broke up with this guy, and he started stalking her and had to get a restraining order, and all kinds of other crazy crap happened. Well, after some serious drama when he showed up and threatened to kill her, yelling that if he couldn't have her nobody could, and the police essentially did nothing about it, he waited in the bushes for her dad to leave for work the next morning. Snuck in through her window that morning and shot her in the head while she slept. Killed himself too. Dad got home and found them both dead after work. It rocked us to our core. I always remember that as the experience that made me hate the news media. They were bombarding us with questions, filming us crying and grieving. We all started walking to classes outside with our middle fingers up so they wouldn't have any footage to use. It worked for the most part. I dealt with death plenty with grandparents dying up to that point, but when it's unexpected and sudden for someone that hasn't even gotten old enough to vote yet, that's rough. I see pictures of her pop up every year when people mourn the anniversary of her death, and it's so sad to think of how much she'll never experience because some douche couldn't handle her not wanting him. Her family sued the police department for that and won a mountain of money. When Dad was interviewed about it, the only thing he could say through his tears was, "My daughter is still dead. This money isn't going to make that pain any easier. I just wanted the police to change their ways so nobody else has to go through this." If I'm not mistaken, the whole department was fired almost immediately after, and he donated all that money to charity.